Hello, this is Jared. I'm playing Oxygen Not Included, and this is my Moonlet playthrough on cycle 40. And I'm concerned about food, so I am going to get Hugger to apply the lullaby effect on any of the pips that don't have, or pip eggs that don't have it, which is all of them at the moment. I'm also going to upgrade the washroom or the latrine to a washroom. Now, I won't be able to do that, but I need a liquid reservoir, so I want to store the waste that's going to come out of that. So I'm going to research that first, and then perhaps in the next cycle, do the research for the actual washroom, and then build it. So at this point, the standard stuff I'm doing every day, just applying the lullaby effect on every pip egg. I'm going to put light down to the micro mushroom because I'm starting to need that every now and then. Not liking that fact, but hopefully that'll change soon. But whoever is going to operate that will at least have light to work a little bit more efficient, and perhaps not use as much power if they can be there less time. Other than that, I noticed that some automation is missing on the fifth stable. That'll do for the cycle. Okay, let's talk about this carnivore achievement for a second. It's currently the evening towards cycle 40, going into cycle 41. But I need to make a decision. I need to decide whether I need another dupe or not. And I don't really have enough calories for them in general to be able to do this just yet. However, I'm going to take them on anyways because I do have a mush machine to convert dirt and water to food for the meantime. But the reason I'm doing this is because I want the carnivore achievement, and that requires me to eat 400,000 calories of meat before cycle 100. So, for instance, let's say I didn't have my dupes eat any meat. It becomes cycle 50. I would need 8 dupes eating 1,000 calories a cycle in order to get that achievement. And I would just be getting that achievement under those conditions. If I don't have 8 dupes and I'm not feeding them meat by that point, that just means by the time I get to cycle 100, I'll need to have even more than 8, and that number will depend on exactly what cycle I'm on, how many dupes, and how much meat I've eaten at that point. Anyway, we'll see that at a future point. I'll calculate how I'm doing, but right now I haven't haven't eaten a lot of meat, so it means I'm going to need at least close to 8 dupes by cycle 50. So I'm just building a mess table and some cots for them, these new dupes that are going to join. And the thing is, you can't just print the number of dupes that you want in any given time. So let's say I finally get enough meat at cycle 50 or 60. I can't just print all the ones. I need to have them already existing, because this printing pod, every time you print one, it takes about 3 cycles or so to be able to print another one. So I need to start taking on dupes, even though I can't quite feed them at the moment. That is half the story. How many dupes you need to consume the meat, but you also have to look at the meat production. Before I do that, I might do that in the next cycle. I've just noticed that this room that stores the lullabied eggs is Hugger was allowed in there, so I'm preventing Hugger from going in that room. And the reason for that is I don't want to incubate an egg, and then Hugger goes in that room, grabs a egg that has the lullaby effect, and bringing it down. That'd just be a waste of time. So whenever I tell the incubator to process a pip egg, now Hugger is prevented from grabbing a lullabied egg, which is good. So with the rest of the cycle, I'm going to start building the piping for the washroom that's going to be built. I'm just going to build that on top of the latrine area. But it's nice to have those pipes built first, because when those new latrines and the sinks are created, they're not going to operate without water going in and out. Also put in a little bit of egg automation, removal automation in the latest stable I've created. Starting off cycle 42, realizing that scientists did not use their bed, even though they're assigned a cot. They're sleeping on a door. I don't understand why. If anyone has a theory how this happens, please write in the comments. But other than that, I also realized, speaking of comments, that someone had made a note that I don't use hats. And no really good reason for that. So I thought, you know what, it's perfect time to try them out after probably ignoring them for many, many playthroughs. So I'm going to give scientists, even though they're not the brightest ones sleeping on a door the last cycle, give them the scientist hat. and I'll give out critter ranching 1, critter ranching 2, critter ranching 2 will be for Hugger. And engineer I'm struggling between the super hard digging and the Menatronics. I think I'm going to go with the Menatronics just because that to me is a little bit more important skill, at least for the food production. And then astronaut, actually I haven't decided what skill to give them. None of their interests align with anything that I want to give them at the moment. So generally when I'm stuck, I normally give them the carrying capacity so that they can do a bit of supplying, which means maybe it makes sense to give them the improved carrying hat. Before I talk about the meat production in those stables with the pips and figuring out how many I need to support a certain amount of dupes, let me finish the washroom first. So I noticed that this pitcher pump isn't being built because they have an unreachable dig. So I'm going to build a temporary ladder for them to be able to reach that. And then I'm going to check that I have the research for washroom. So I'm going to continue, or essentially replace the latrine that is currently here with a washroom. I already have some pipes, and I'm going to create a door. So in the very first 4, that's going to be for showers. And I'm separating that into room on the side because there's a nature reserve on the far right side. So it'll be nature reserve, a set of showers, and then it's going to be 4 sinks and 4 lavatories. So I'm also going to build some temporary outhouses because as I'm building this, I don't want to have my dupes be stressed out that they can't find a toilet. So starting to put in a few sinks, there'll be 4 of those, and then 4 lavatories as I mentioned, and I need to have a place dug out to the left of this that's going to store the polluted water. Eventually I'm going to have a system to deal with that, but for the short term I'm just fine putting all the polluted water into a liquid reservoir. I think that'll pretty much do for this cycle, and I'll continue this on in the next cycle. Starting off cycle 43, applying the lullaby effect on the set of pip eggs that I have, because I want those to turn into pips as soon as possible. And I've got to start filling the empty pip stables that I have. And I'm going to have to construct the equipment necessary in the 6th stable. Anyway, I'll get that ongoing. The rest of the cycle is primarily going to be focusing on completing the washroom. So upgrading the lavatory to a washroom, the latrine to a washroom. And that's going to get a +2 morale when my dupes use it. So not the biggest thing. But I'm going to need a liquid reservoir, or somewhere anyway, to store the polluted water that goes out of the sinks and lavatories. So I'm just putting a liquid reservoir for that. And I'm going to have to make, oh no, astronaut, you get trapped. Let's dig a way out from, and you know what, let's dig out the water that's next to it, because actually I would prefer to have a second liquid reservoir, because I know it won't take too long for the first one to get filled up, especially as I start accepting more dupes. And I don't want to be caught on surprise, so I'll have two to be able to watch. And let's finish this cycle off with finishing up the last little touches of the 6th stable. I suspect I'm going to need more stables than this one, but we'll talk about that in the next episode, where I do a calculation of how many pips and stables I need to fill or provide food for my base. I'm also looking at where I'm going to put future stables if I do need them, because the pips like temperatures between 10 and 20 degrees, and I don't want someplace that's too hot and too cold. Anyway, more to say about that in the next episode. Just before I leave, just going to mention tonight I had an opportunity to get another dupe, and again, same thing, I didn't want to because there's so few calories. But I'm just going to accept them because I need dupes to be able to consume meat in order to get this achievement. We'll see whether this is ultimately a good or bad idea in the future. Anyway, I thought I'd throw it in before we get to the next episode. Alright, in this episode, I've upgraded the latrine to a washroom. That gives me twice the amount of morale, 2 instead of 1, not that big of a deal. But the big thing that I care about is my dupes no longer have to waste time clearing out the outhouses. With the latrine, with a lavatory that's automated, it just flushes out. My dupes don't have to waste time unplugging it. on the food side of things, and whether or not I'm going to get the carnivore achievement, my stress level, the dupe stress level, is probably 20% right now and rising. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get this, I'll be honest with you. There may be a chance that I'll have to go back and replay with a slightly different strategy. How I'll do that within the video, I'll figure out if it happens. But right now, let's just focus. Let's see if I can still make it happen. In this next episode, I'm going to calculate how many of these little pips I need to feed, let's say 8 or possibly even a dozen dupes in order to get this. Anyway, if you like this series, like this video, subscribe, and hopefully see you next video.